What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? It's KC3 Takes here. We're doing a special interview, not on the podcast. This is a video by itself. We're joined here by Joshua Brisco. Josh, appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Happy to be here.
All right, for people who don't know who you are, what do you do, and pretty much that.
I tweet professionally. No, I mean I tweet a lot. But my main thing is that I'm the host of my show called Almost Entirely Sports. It's weekdays on ESPN Kansas City here in Kansas City, and you can just get all that information, on the ESPN Kansas City Facebook page, Twitter, and I'm on Twitter at JB Brisco. So I do that. I host a lot of stuff on Sports Radio 810 WHB here in Kansas City as well. So I talk a lot.
Jackson, you got anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, hey, it's Jackson. How'd you really get started in this business? Because I'm someone that I think all three of us that do this, Kansas City Sports isn't with us today, but me and Josh are two guys that really want to get in this as well. How'd you really get into this?
So I did an internship towards I think summer of my sophomore or junior year. I don't know, I can't remember. But I did an internship over the summer in college. Interned here at Union Broadcasting, which is 810 and ESPN Kansas City. And then I ended up getting like a board op job pushing buttons for a few years, a couple years, I guess. And just kind of got to rise up with some different opportunities. And it was very, very basic that way. I did a podcast. I started a podcast freshman year of college, and have kept that up for until I started, my radio show. So it was just a lot of that. It was a lot of talking into microphones, trying to get people to listen to it, and then getting the work here at 810.
That's cool. So, are you from Kansas City originally?
Yeah, I was born in Wichita, but I moved up to the suburbs of Kansas City, in my childhood, around 10 or 11 probably.
All right, that's cool. Well, now that we know a little bit more about you, let's just go right into it. I know it's been 6 days, but still relevant. The Chiefs and Patriots. What were your thoughts on those games?
Well, I guess it kind of ended how I thought it was going to, like the season altogether. The offense had its miserable first half, but there's blame for the defense even in that. We can get to that later, I guess. But the offense comes through and has an unbelievable performance, especially late in the game. Mahomes is outstanding. Andy Reid puts the game plan together and all of that. Again, slow start, obviously, but incredible second half. The offense essentially just carries its weight, and it does the things that it's done all year long. It's amazing on the biggest stage, and the defense cannot get a stop when they need to. It's just always kind of how it felt like the season was going to end, and it came through that way.
You've been around a little longer than me and Josh have. Personally, I think this was the toughest loss I've ever seen as a Chiefs fan. Would you say the same?
Interesting. No, I wouldn't even say it was the toughest of the last, maybe all three of the recent ones. I don't think it was. I think this loss hurt me less than any of the Alex Smith ones. And I'll
Really?
tell you why. Yeah, it's because I actually have the counter argument for it also, so I totally understand where you're coming from. But for me, I'm already kind of at a place now where I'm excited for the next thing, and the Chiefs
Mm-hmm.
have a legitimate contender because they have a legitimate quarterback. Now, I guess the counter argument to that is that more was wasted this year. Like, we should be talking right now about how the Chiefs are going to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. That should be the conversation, because the mistake made of keeping Bob Sutton last year. It was no surprise that was going to end up coming back and biting them. The defense was so miserable all year. If for me, if I was going to, I guess, sort of evaluate how much was lost, I would understand that logic because those Alex Smith teams were never going to end up in the Super Bowl anyway. But winning that Colts game and then feeling like next year they're probably going to end up back in the same spot. Obviously, there's no guarantee or whatever, but it leaves me with more optimism than past years.
Yeah. I mean, I went to the game in Indianapolis in 2013 when we blew our 28-point lead. So
That's so hard.
yeah, I've been hurt before by this team, but I do see your points there. I did say coming in, if we could just win one home playoff game, that would boost our confidence for years to come, and I think
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah,
Yes, 100%.
I gotta agree with Josh too. I mean, when you lose to the Steelers, the Colts in the playoffs, those hurt a lot. But since you're in the AFC Championship with a win at home, it makes you feel a lot better, like you said, going into the next season with Patrick Mahomes. And talking about Patrick Mahomes, what are your thoughts on him maybe getting paid $200 million? Do you think the Chiefs should do that?
Well, so here's a little bit of this is kind of nerdy, so just stick with me if you or whoever's listening right now is not super into that side of it. But the Chiefs can't pay him this offseason, right? That contract would have to be next offseason, and that's what the report's for. One of the soapboxes that I've been on for a long time now is that the most important thing in football is a quarterback that's giving you a value. So Jared Goff, like, I would not be telling you that Jared Goff should get $200 million. He definitely shouldn't. But he might, because he could end up winning the Super Bowl, pretty quickly in his career. But having a quarterback that is outperforming a rookie deal is a huge, huge asset for anybody. And Mahomes right now is like an unbelievable example of that, where obviously his value is insane because he's performing at an MVP level on a rookie contract. However, you got to pay him eventually. Again, it can't be this offseason, but next offseason, if the Chiefs do it soon, they have a little more leverage. Maybe they can force a little more flexibility. Maybe that number drops down a little bit. If you want to wait him out through his entire rookie deal, I understand totally, because you get more years of that great window. But also you start losing a little bit of leverage, and especially like you let a guy hit free agency. That's how Kirk Cousins made all of his money. And Kirk Cousins is no Patrick Mahomes. As far as like who he is as a quarterback, I'm totally in. I'm glad they get another year before they have to pay him. I'm glad you get to see a second season of it. But I imagine that next year is going to look like another MVP-esque season, and he's going to earn that money.
Yeah, and I think it's also notable that if you do pay him next offseason, that contract doesn't start in his fourth year. That's still his rookie deal. So you still have some flexibility in the cap space. So I think that's also notable.
Yeah, because and what would probably happen is that those next couple of years would still be affected. Is my best guess at how they would restructure it. Part of the contract would essentially be saying like, hey, we're not going to make you only make this limited amount of money in year 4. We'll pay you more in year 4, just so the cap hit's more evened out for the next however long it is, the next 5 seasons or whatever. But that's the thing. That's the whole reason that you do it early. It's having a little more leverage, and it's giving yourself a little more flexibility.
All right.
Yeah. I also have a question. How important do you think it would be to give him his contract before Goff, maybe Wentz, and some of those other young quarterbacks get theirs? Because you saw Aaron Rodgers play this game. He waited till Matt Ryan got his contract to get his.
Yeah. I think, and this is kind of nuts, but I think Patrick Mahomes is going to reset the market whenever it happens.
Yeah.
I think that whatever Goff and maybe Wentz is probably the most interesting, but his injuries and everything, like, there's a little bit of logic for the Eagles holding back a little more and Wentz still taking that deal, whatever it ends up being. Whenever Patrick Mahomes signs, it's going to be for more money than anyone's ever signed for. And I'm not sure, because really his market isn't necessarily Goff and Wentz, it's Rodgers, which is, again, kind of insane.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you're saying, how you're saying we should be here talking about the Chiefs and Rams and how the Chiefs might be able to beat the Rams. What were your thoughts on the Rams and Saints no-call game?
I think it's a bummer that that's how it's going to be known for the rest of time, that it is the no-call game or whatever. That obviously it should have been a penalty. Like, he got fined for a helmet-to-helmet. It probably should have been a helmet-to-helmet. It definitely should have been pass interference. But it's always a bummer whenever stuff like that happens, because it takes away that so many other times throughout a game that it could have gone the other direction. And I've been really frustrated with the referees throughout this NFL season. Like, it's been extremely frustrating, because it feels very much like the ineptitude is worse than it's ever been. The thing about it, though, is that referees are at this point held to such scrutiny. Because we get to reevaluate every single call they make in slow motion 5 seconds later. And so what I think ultimately happens there, what I hope happens there, is that you just start putting a ref in the booth, and they can pick up a flag if it should be a no call. They can help you evaluate things on the fly more quickly and more seamlessly. Because with all of we have slow motion cameras in pylons, like they're in the pylon. That's insane. But refs don't get to use those. So I think what I hope happens for good is that this entire debacle is an agent for change, and refs to start using all the tools that we have to see in broadcasts and all.
So you do agree with them? So you would agree if they would review pass interference calls?
So here's the thing: it's gotta happen better and more quickly than all of than turnovers and scoring plays. But here's the thing, man: it can. Like in every time this happens, we get to hear from Mike Pereira 6 seconds after the flag hits the ground. Just let there be a guy, let there be a referee who is up in the booth who can review this stuff and buzz down to the earpiece of the referee in 5 seconds. Like it has to happen quickly. In the time that refs, how they can huddle up and discuss a flag, in the amount of time that takes, the ref from the booth should be able to buzz in and say, pick up the flag, that shouldn't be a call. I also don't think you can throw a flag from the booth, essentially. Like, just be a little more liberal with letting flags fly on that stuff. And in 5 seconds, a ref in the booth should be able to say, that's not roughing the passer, like on that Chris Jones play, or that's not pass interference, pick it up. And if you can't decide it in 5 seconds, then it's still a flag. Then you don't pick it up. But we can't get hung up on every single flag. We can't be looking to the booth or to instant replay on every single play, because that's going to make every game 8 hours long. But you can make this problem less of a problem and still not bring the game to a screeching halt. The NFL just has to do that.
Yeah, and then also a topic that was very controversial during this past week was the NFL's overtime rules. Do you feel like they should be changed? Or do you feel like they're fair the way they are?
I mean, they're not fair, and they're also not good, and I'm also not furious about it, if you can make sense of all of that.
Yeah.
Because, listen, man, the most fair overtime rules are probably the ones in college, which is the one version of football where the games can last forever and the players never get paid and no one at the schools really cares if they all get CTE. Like, they don't have a players union, so they get to play pretty hard and fast with the rules there. The professional level, you can't have, like, that Chiefs Patriots game. If every time someone scores you get a chance to match it or whatever, that game would still be happening. Like, that game would have basically ended right before the Pro Bowl kicked off, because those offenses were going to score until the end of time. So no, it's not good. It's certainly not ideal. It's not fair. Also, I don't have a perfect answer for it, so I'm not heartbroken. It is dumb, but it's also just it is the rule at the moment.
Yeah. Super Bowl 53 next Sunday. Rams versus Patriots. The youngins versus the oldies. Who do you have?
I mean, listen, I've picked against the Patriots enough at this point to probably learn enough and know better. Belichick getting 2 weeks to figure out how to rattle Jared Goff is why I'm picking the Patriots. He's gotten Mahomes and the Chiefs offense in the first half. McVay being able to adjust at halftime is going to be fascinating. What I think the whole game comes down to for the Patriots is being able to capitalize on more than they did in the first half against the Chiefs. Not having that pick in the end zone that Reggie Ragland picked off. If that happens, that game never gets that close again. The Patriots need to capitalize on whatever's going to happen in that first half. And what's going to happen in the first half, I believe, is that Jared Goff's going to make a couple of mistakes, that the Rams offense is going to be slowed down. They'll speed up again in the second half. But I think the Patriots have the lead at halftime just enough to maintain it throughout the game and win another Super Bowl. That's where I'm at right now.
All right. Kind of talking about that. Sean McVay is just getting a lot of talk since he just turned 33, and you get Cliff Kingsbury getting hired. Do you think the new generation of coaches is being very young and having a college background? I know McVay didn't have a big college background, but do you think it's kind of turning to that now?
I think more than anything, it's about looking for offensive innovators and looking for the right guy for your young quarterback, because you saw Jared Goff being largely squandered by Jeff Fisher, right? You see Josh Rosen have a relatively disappointing first season, at least whenever you look at some of the other guys who've had more success around him. But the same thing goes for, in a way, Jameis Winston with going and hiring Bruce Arians, with Sam Darnold and the Jets going to get Adam Gase. Those are guys that are being brought in to work with your young quarterback. Winston being the least of those, but I can't explain what the Bucs are doing. But especially like with the Jets, Adam Gase he was just a head coach like for 45 minutes before he got hired by the Jets. He got fired by the Dolphins. Finding guys that are going to come in and work directly with your young quarterback, I think that's the biggest attraction. And at some point, we'll see other guys with different backgrounds and different mindsets still getting gigs. But right now, the influx of sort of offensive innovators, I think, is totally reasonable, especially whenever you look at having guys on rookie contracts. Back to my value a quarterback soapbox. There's no better way to win quickly than to draft a young quarterback and to get the right head coach for him. So if Cliff Kingsbury burns out in Arizona, fine. But if he works great with Josh Rosen or if Adam Gase is great with Sam Darnold, those two teams are going to be contenders again a year from now. That's the quickest way to reboot a franchise. So I don't begrudge anybody for trying that way.
Yeah, there's definitely those scenarios. I do have a question, though, because Green Bay is trying that with Matt LaFleur, a 39-year-old guy. Rodgers is not a young quarterback. He's very developed. What do you take about that?
I am so happy for Aaron Rodgers for finally getting out of the abusive relationship that was Mike McCarthy and him.
Me too.
Listen, Mike McCarthy does deserve some credit for the early development of Aaron Rodgers, and someone's going to hire Mike McCarthy to be the head coach over their young quarterback next year, and good luck. However, I'm so glad that someone else is going to get to work with Aaron Rodgers. It is a different situation. You're totally right. Because Aaron Rodgers is one of the best things to ever happen to the quarterback position, but he needs some innovation to support him. It's not about forming him like Cliff Kingsbury to Josh Rosen and Adam Gase to Sam Darnold, where it's about obviously development and lots of creation for that quarterback. With the Packers, it's, hey, how do we continue to maximize Aaron Rodgers? How do we get him something a little more complex that he can run that maximizes this incredible skill set that he has?
All right. So with the football season about to wrap up, baseball's about to start up again. What do you see the Royals doing this year?
I mean, other than not being very good, I guess.
You don't think they're gonna be good?
No, they're not gonna be good. They're gonna be kind of interesting. Adalberto Mondesi is really interesting. I think he will be excellent this year. That's the only hope beyond hope right now, is that he's just that he sort of announces himself as being one of those up and coming, eventually transcendent players. But outside of that, man, I have just very little excitement. Even a guy that I like, Danny Duffy. I hope that he has a bounce back season. Assuming that he will. He's not really that interesting right now. We know what Danny Duffy is, and his best couple of years are gone, if not as a pitcher, because the Royals' best seasons are gone. So, we're at, you could say as an optimist, year 2 of a rebuilding process, but I just having a really hard time right now finding a lot to be terribly excited about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. I found myself last year paying more attention to the farm system than the actual Royals team. So bouncing off of that, who is your favorite guy down there in the farm right now? Who do you think is going to be the best player to come up?
That's really interesting because I agree with you on that front. And what I would just beg the Royals to do at this point is to let more of their farm system seep into the big league roster, where we got to see a little bit of that last year, right? You got to see moments of that. And if it's not from a couple of the outfielders, what is Ryan O'Hearn going to do? I don't know, but let's find out, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, down the roster some, it's all of the pitchers, and it's hoping that those guys, especially from this last draft, they drafted all those college guys because that shortens up your timeline a little bit. Guys with slightly lower ceilings in all likelihood, but theoretically, right? Just hoping, because baseball is so bizarre and so unique this way. Bringing those guys along a little more quickly, the college arms that can be an influx of talent to your roster sooner rather than later. That's the category of guys I'm looking at. I guess Brady Singer is the name at the moment, but for me, it's that class of guys for sure.
All right, so since you say the Royals aren't going to do good this year, which they probably won't, when do you think they will be a contender for the playoffs? Not the World Series, just for the playoffs.
It's a good question, but it's also I think I'm probably going to have a depressing answer. I I mean, it's just the timeline of these pitchers. Again, like not to be redundant, but like if this whole class of collegiate pitchers are in the big leagues in 2 years, then maybe in 3 years they're all starting and they're all in the rotation. And even then, like even the guys that you're optimistic about are probably middle of the rotation guys. And then who's at the top of your rotation? Is there an ace out of this group? I don't know. How far out is the offense? We're probably like playoff teams. Like I want to say 3 or 4 years. And even that feels kind of optimistic. Like you let the Alex Gordon contract run out, you get free of Ian Kennedy, and you can maybe start bending a little bit. You can start playing. The free agent market has been so bizarre these last couple of years in baseball that maybe you end up getting one of those stars that hits the market and nobody really wants to pay him. And then so you, as the Royals, can say, hey, we've got Mondesi, a real up-and-comer. We've got a staff we feel pretty good about. Maybe we go spend a little bit to get like a number 2 starter. And, what's that? The next young hitter that no one really wants to pay a ton of money to is out there. Let us take that risk. That's how I'm probably trying to speed up the process, but I'm not terribly optimistic about that hitting anytime soon.
All right. We really appreciate you coming on the show, Josh. So before you go, if you want to talk about your show, anything, you can.
Absolutely. So follow me on Twitter at JBBrisco, Brisco, because that's where you can find – I end up doing a ton of stuff all over the place. So come there and you can see everything else that we're doing. The Daily Show, Almost Entirely Sports, though, is my particular baby because that show, being over on ESPN Kansas City in afternoons, 4 to 6, also wherever you get your podcast. If you search Almost Entirely Sports wherever you got your podcast, you'll find it. Every minute of it, both hours podcasted there. We've done a ton of Chiefs stuff, obviously. Now we're starting to look at everything else that's going on. We'll keep talking about the Chiefs a lot. We talked a lot this week about Steve Spagnuolo, the new defensive coordinator, and how that affects the Chiefs going forward. But it's a weird show. We get to talk about nonsense a lot and let the sports and the nonsense collide a little bit. I really enjoy it. If you're interested in something a little different sports talk-wise, I'd invite you over to Almost Entirely Sports.
All right. We really appreciate it. We'd love to have you back on the show. You're welcome back for sure. Thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, anytime. And let's not get our hopes about the Royals. Right, that's the real takeaway here. So hit snooze for another year. I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise.
Yeah. All right. That's been it for this KC3 Takes episode. See you guys later.